What's up guys, Deagle here from ProNDC. Welcome to another ESO build video. In today's build video I want to focus on the Magicka Sorcerer PVE Build update for the Wolfhunter DLC. Magsorc is a really fun class to play, and if you want to know what changed since the last patch, stay tuned.
Right before my eyes, but it took me time to care. No excuses, I'm feeling useless, 'cause you're not playing fair. We've been played by the hand that we laid, knowing we will never win. Keep your turn as a lesson learned for the ending to begin. 'Cause it's settled in my mind, it's settled in my mind, 'cause it's settled in my mind again. Yeah, it's settled in my mind, it's settled in my mind, 'cause it's settled in my mind again. Things get old because we've been told that it shouldn't be this hard. You won't give because I won't take. We're conflicted from the start. 'Cause it's settled in my mind, it's settled in my mind, 'cause it's settled in my mind again. Yeah, it's settled in my mind, it's settled in my mind, 'cause it's settled in my mind again.
So that was the DPS test on the 6mm skeleton. I decided to use a 6mm test because I used a shock damage glyph and I also got a healer providing infallible ether. So the target had minor vulnerability up 100% of the time. That made it much easier to compare the shock damage glyph to the berserker glyph, which gives you more spell damage. And yeah, because of that I decided to go with the 6mm test. The shock damage glyph has the chance to apply minor vulnerability itself for 4 seconds, so the results may vary quite a lot. So just to let you guys know why I decided to go with infallible ether on the healer. I also got, of course, drain and orbs, and yeah, so much for the DPS test. So we're gonna start with the stats, of course. I currently am a dark elf. I have a second Magicka Sorcerer. She's a high elf. Dark elf will be the best race when it comes to pure DPS. I have all my points into Magicka. I currently run recovery food, which Mother's Potent Brew. Of course, if you have enough money, you can run Clockwork Citrus Fillet. I just wanted to show the stats with which Mother's Potent Brew, because most people of you, or a lot of people out there, actually complain that Clockwork Citrus Fillet is basically not worth it because it's just so expensive. We get almost 1.3k unbuffed Magicka recovery. We use a Thief on the stone. That's one thing that changed since last patch. However, I don't use the Thief in all situations. There are situations where I actually swap it out for the Apprentice, but I will get to that when I talk about gear. Usually I go with max Magicka, max health food, and then my stats look like this. So I'm sitting at 45k max Magicka and 17.1k max health. We have a little bit less stats now because there was a bug with the food. They fixed it this patch. Basically what happened was when you used food, it that was like not gold quality like Clockwork Citrus Relay, it scaled up to your well, it scaled with your weapon quality. So when you had a legendary weapon, the blue food scaled up and it gave you like about 400 more magicka and 400 more HP. And so we're missing these stats again. That happened across all classes. So just you guys know why the stats are a little bit different from last patch. But you can see the rest of the stats for yourself. Let's talk about gear. So since last patch, the gear sub hasn't really changed. We're still playing with 5 pieces of Sororia. I have 2 body pieces and the necklace and rings, and then I have 5 pieces of Burning Spellweave with the Burning Spellweave infused staff on the front bar. The only thing that really changed are the glyphs. You have multiple options, but I will get to that in a second. First of all, Perfected Sororia. Some of you guys might not be able to get it. You can get it in Cloud Rest. To get the body pieces, you have to play Veteran +1. And if you actually want to get jewelry pieces, you have to play Veteran +2. And if you want gold jewelry pieces, you have to play Veteran +3. Upgrading jewelry pieces got cheaper. It's now about like 260 to 280k per piece. I know a lot of you guys will still not be able to afford it. You do not have to make it gold, of course. I personally think it's easier to just farm the stuff in +3, but yeah. So upgrading jewelry stuff got easier in Wolfhunter. They reduced the amount of upgrade materials you need by 50%. So Sororia gets a spell damage, Minor Slayer, Magicka, and if you have the perfected version, again Magicka, and then we can get those stacks of Sororia's boon for 5 seconds, and we can get 20 stacks max, so that's 600 spell damage. The perfected Sororia, even with just a few stacks, will be stronger than any other Magicka DPS set that you can get. The second best option that you could use is the normal Sororia. You can just farm it in normal Cloud Rest. Just go in there, kill the side bosses. You do not even have to kill the main boss, and then you can just farm it for yourself. That's a really easy way to get a really good set. If you do not like it because you have to move a lot, what I recommend is swapping it out for Burning Spellweave and then combining it with a different set, but I will get to that in a second. The second set is Burning Spellweave. You get max Magicka, spell crit, spell damage, or spell damage then spell crit, and then the 5-piece bonus is when we deal damage with a flame damage ability, we have a 15% chance to apply the burning status effect and increase the spell damage by 525 for 8 seconds. So we have 2 sets that give us a ton of spell damage. The maximum uptime here would be 66%. You barely reach that. Usually your uptimes are between 53 to around 61%, depending on your proc luck, but it's still completely fine. You need, however, a Burning Spellweave staff. So we have 3 body pieces here, and we have 1 staff. Keep in mind the staff now counts as 2 pieces. A lot of people ask me like, if they counted it wrong, but they forgot that the staff actually counts as 2 pieces now. So we have an infused staff here with a shock damage glyph. So Burning Spellweave staves are really hard to farm. Like, you need a lot of lucks. Maybe you have 2. Ideally you'd have 3 of them to really be prepared for all situations. But if you want to play it safe, you can just use 1. You will not be able to min-max or like adjust to every situation perfectly, but if you only have 1, what you want to do is get a Berserker Glyph on that staff. A Berserker Glyph is the glyph right here, increases your weapon and spell damage by 552 for 5 seconds on an infused staff. So you put that on the front bar, because the flame damage glyph that we used to play on the front bar, we now put it on the back bar, most of the time at least. So we have an infused Maelstrom Inferno staff with a flame damage glyph. So flame damage back bar with shock will give you the best single target results. For better AoE results, you want to have a Berserker Glyph, like I said. With these 2 weapons, you're good to go for most situations. However, if you really want to maximize DPS, you want at least a second Maelstrom Inferno staff with a Daedric damage glyph. So deals 9.6k magic damage to undead and Daedra. The reason why we put these glyphs on the back bar now is because our blockade procs them off of cooldown as long as the blockade is up. So we just have to reapply the blockade whenever it runs out, and it will just proc the flame damage or Daedric damage glyph over and over and over again. This only works with your with glyphs that actually harm the target. So glyphs that deal damage or debuff, like resistances and other things. So it's really important to keep that in mind. It doesn't work with a berserker glyph on the back bar anymore. That's why we most likely, like in most situations, want to put it on the front bar if you use one. If you really want to be prepared for all situations, you want to have one with shock on the front bar, one with berserker on the front bar, and one with flame on the front bar, because to actually maximize DPS, especially on the dark elf, you want to have the Daedric glyph on the back bar and a flame glyph on the front bar. That's the best DPS combination for opponents like Rockhard, Rakotu, the Foundation Stone Atro and the Lightning Storm Atro for trials, and of course like dungeons like Whitecoat Tower and Imperial City Prison and stuff like that for dungeons. For the monster set, I currently use Zaan. A lot of people will question this set choice because like Zaan, it even got like reduced, the beam got reduced to 8 meters down up from 10, down from 10, and you will still be able to use Zaan in most situations. There's barely any fight where you actually have to play range. The only fight where you actually really have to do that is Asylum Centaurium. And in that trial, most people don't even go with a monster set. They just put in 2 monster sets to 1 set pieces with crit, and to boost the stats, because the DPS from your monster set isn't that high, and it's easier to just boost your base stats compared to having a monster set that procs. So Zaan is still fine. Trust me, I've played it in a lot of situations. You'll be fine. If you do not trust me, you can just go with the Elambris. Elambris is quite a bit weaker. It will give you max Magicka instead, so your Magicka pool is a little bit higher. But it deals more AoE damage. Zaan is for pure single target, and it's still really, really strong. Deals up to around like 3k DPS. So those are your monster set pieces that you can wear, and this is like the whole setup. So nothing really changed since last patch. What you can do if you do not have Sororia is go with Mother Sorrow instead. So you can just like wear Mother Sorrow jewelry pieces or 5 body pieces, and then Burning Spell with jewelry pieces and the staff, and you're good to go. You will have a lot of crit. You can also go with Julianos. If you go with Julianos, definitely keep the Thief Mother Stone. But whenever I went with Mother Sorrow and combined it with any other set, I went with the Apprentice. It gave me at least the same results, sometimes a little bit better compared to the Thief. That was just my personal results. You can of course keep the Thief if you do not want to swap Mana Stones the whole time, but there's also of course other setup combinations. For Cloud Rest, I combine Sororia with Mother Sorrow instead of Burning Spellweave, because usually the uptimes of Burning Spellweave are not that high, as my blockade runs out a lot because of the things I have to do in the fight, like having to focus the spheres that spawn, which is really important. So sometimes my blockade runs out, and then my Burning Spellweave uptime is not that good. But this is like this is the regular setup, and if you want to know if your setup works for a certain or for a specific fight, just ask me in the comment section. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the gear. Let's get into skills. So we will start with the Burning Spellweave Staff bar. As a spammer, we use Elemental Weapon. So this is from the Psijic Order skill. It's really strong and especially really cheap. It only costs 2k Magicka. If you do not have Somerset, you cannot unlock the Psijic Order skill line, so you'd have to play with the Force Pulse. With Force Pulse instead as a spammable. This will be a little bit harder on your sustain, but it's not that much weaker compared to Elemental Weapon. A little bit, but not that much. If you have Force Pulse on the front bar, you do not need the Destro ult, and you can just swap ults and go with the Greater Storm Atro on the front. But that's up to you. Then we have Crystal Fragments. Quite expensive as you see, but also really, really powerful. And we only want to use them if they proc. So when they proc, our hands start to glow, and they have these crystals around them, and you can shoot them. They will cost only 50% Magicka and deal 10% more damage, which is really nice. Then we have our Execute here, Endless Fury. I swap the morphs. Usually in Cloud Rest I go with Endless Fury. In other trials I will go with Mage's Wrath. The reason for that is Endless Fury restores Magicka when I kill an enemy with the ability. 4.4k, that's a lot. And we have so many little targets in Cloud Rest that I actually make use of the Magicka return from this ability quite a bit. And it's really important for sustain, because in there I play with max food, so like max stat food, instead of recovery food, to just have more HP and be a little bit safer, especially if you want to go for scores. So Endless Fury or Mage's Wrath, both morphs are fine. Just decide for yourself which one you want to use. Then we have Inner Light, giving us 5% more max Magicka, and then also from the passive of the Major Skill 2% more. And then we have Bound Aegis, giving us 8% more Magicka, and then from the passive from Storm Calling, right here, increases your weapon spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. So we have Bound Aegis here for more Magicka and more spell damage. Then we have Fiery Rage when we use Elemental Weapon to get the passive of Ancient Knowledge. While the Destruction Staff ability is slotted, equipping a Flame Staff increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%. That's our Crystal Fragments or Light Hacks or Elemental Weapon, and also the Force Pulse, and of course the Execute. So that's really important to buff these. On the Maelstrom Staff bar, we use the Greater Storm Atro as an ultimate. Most of the times we just use this ultimate here. In Cloud Rest, this will probably result in less single target DPS, but you will have the chance to buff others because you'd have to control the Storm Atro. We actually only use Destro ult in trash fights, and also only have a slot for the passive. The Greater Storm Atro applies Major Berserk to the person that activates the synergy for 8 seconds. That's actually quite the damage boost, and whenever a person activates the synergy, it also applies Major Berserk to the Storm Atro. That's really cool. Then we have Empowered Board. We use this one here because it applies Minor Intellect, 10% more Magicka recovery for us and our allies. Then again, Bound Aegis, because more Magicka and spell damage. Then we have Haunting Curse on the back bar. It goes off after 3.5 seconds, and then after an additional 8.5 seconds. So that's also pretty nice. Then we have Liquid Lightning, AoE dot, and then we have Blockade of Fire, also AoE dot, activating the Maelstrom Staff. What you can do if you want to have minor force as above, you can just take out the Execute, put Liquid on the front bar, move this stuff around, and then just go with Channeled Acceleration. And you can play like this. You will spend more time on the front bar, so your burning spell uptimes can be a little bit better, and you do not really need an Execute. So this is an option for a skill setup. I used that last patch and it worked just fine. However, in most situations where I play the Sorc, I actually get guarded, or for Cloud Rest, I just drop the Curse, put Channel Acceleration here, and still keep the Execute. So this is like my Cloud Rest skill setup, because the Curse sometimes it's just like, I don't know, I didn't think, like, I didn't feel like it was a real DPS buff, so I decided to drop the Curse for Channel Acceleration, and I got more DPS out of that. But that's pretty much it for the skills. Let's talk about champion points. So for the green and red CP tree, I will just basically show it. I think for the red CP tree, this is still for Cloud Rest hard mode. You can just hit the pause button if you want to see the CP distribution. If you want to know how I distribute my CP for other trials, just ask me in the comment section. So we will start with the green tree. 34 into Warlord, 18 into Sprinter, 75 Arcanist, 49 into Tenacity. This here I pretty much keep all the time because I sometimes need to do heavy attacks when I have some issues with sustain and I want to boost recovery as much as possible, but I don't think it's worth spending another 25 points just for another 1% Magicka recovery. Then 40 to Tumbling, 44 into Shadow Ward. For the red CP tree, like I said, this is for Cloud Rest, so feel free to just hit the pause button to see the CP distribution. Now to the important part, the blue tree. So I currently have 23 into Spell Erosion. It depends on the uptime of the debuffs in the fight. In Cloud Rest, I tend to put a bit more in there. Usually when we have all the debuffs, I only put around like between 16 to 19 in there. That's usually fine. 23 is still fine even with all debuffs. If we drop certain sets, I just put more points into there. So I have 52 into Elfborn, 56 Elemental Expert, and then I have 19 Staff Expert and 66 Mastered Arms. So if I need more points into penetration, I can take out 5 from Staff Expert, 5 from Mastered Arms, and then still keep the Butcher passive, which is really nice because it increases the light attack DPS by 5% when the enemy is in execute range. And then I have an additional 10% points to put in the Spell Erosion. And we could also take some points out from Thaumaturge if needed. I, however, do not recommend to go below 28 points in Thaumaturge because you still need a bit damage from your dots. So this is my usual CP distribution. And I just adjust the penetration. Like if I need more penetration, I just put some more points into here. And that's pretty much it for the champion points. Let's get to the skill rotation. So for the skill rotation, basically what I now do is not really have rotation. There is of course a way to play a static rotation. You will overcast your Liquid Lightning that way, but it's actually really easy. So what you can do if you want to play a static rotation is you apply, like when you start with a curse, you put down your Liquid Lightning, you put down the Blockade of Fire, then you can use 6 actions on the front bar. So that means either 6 times Elemental Weapon if you are not lucky and do not proc your Crystal Fragments at all, or like 4 times Elemental Weapon and 2 Crystal Fragments, and you go to the back bar and reapply the dots. Only when the fight starts, we start with Haunting Curse, and then basically it runs out and we put down the dots and then we'll reapply it again. Whenever we reapply Haunting Curse, we only have time for 5 actions. So it's basically your 2 dots and then 6 things. And one of these things is Haunting Curse every other rotation. So basically how it starts is Haunting Curse, Light Attack, Liquid Lightning, Light Attack, Blockade, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then put Liquid down, Blockade down, and Curse again, and now only 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now Curse is still up. We have time for 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that would be the static rotation. Pretty simple. You just need to be able to count to 5 and 6 and see if you casted your curse or not. But what I now do is a little bit different. So let me just put Drain on the bar so I don't run out of Magicka the whole time. So what I now do is I reapply my dots when they run out. So I start with a Blockade, then Liquid Lightning. Actually, I use my Curse, Blockade, then Liquid Lightning, and then I cast the Blockade when it runs out. So most of the times I only cast 1 skill on the back bar, swap to the front again, then apply Liquid and Haunting Curse usually when they run out, and I just try to track everything from my buff trackers. So basically it looks like this. Blockade, liquid, and then I stay on the front bar until my blockade runs out. Okay, blockade runs out, so I reapply blockade. 1, 2, liquid runs out. Curse ran out. Blockade runs out. So liquid ran out, so I reapplied it. Blockade ran out, curse ran out. That's basically how it works. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple. And you need to have buff trackers to actually be able to do that. And then of course in execute, when the enemy is below 20%, I use my Endless Fury. That's pretty much it. Anyway guys, that's it for the skill rotation. So if you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and if you do not want to miss any more ESO content, make sure to hit the sub button. Also don't forget to hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it, and I hope you tune in next time too. So until then, bye bye.